Good morning, everybody. This is Brittany with the Seniors Blue Book, and today is Tuesday, and I am super excited to have Samantha from CapTel. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling real nice. I've got my new coffee mug here, voted most likely to need coffee.
I love it.
Are you a coffee drinker?
I am. I'm a big coffee drinker.
Yeah,
Do
with this? What's that?
you like tea or coffee?
I absolutely have an obsession with coffee, and then tea is good. Like when I'm feeling a little bit like, allergies are kicking in, I definitely hit the tea hard. But ever since quarantine, being home, I'm literally having like this, like I need like a draft coffee. Like it's all day. It's all day, Samantha.
It never stops.
Exactly. So thank you so much for being here this morning with us. I would love for you to talk a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you and a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, my background and what I do kind of started from when I was very young. My grandmother actually owned her own hearing aid business. So that's kind of an area where I was brought up. I have memories of playing in her office with my cousins and even getting hearing tests done from a very young age. And then once I got older and about high school, I got the opportunity to work with her. And that's when I kind of got to see firsthand how people are affected when they have hearing loss and what they miss out on in the world. Now, even though she has passed on, my dad now owns the same office, and he kind of inspired me as well because that's where we're very similar, as we both kind of were brought up in areas where we see people who have hearing loss, which is something that does affect your life. It affects how you understand things. It affects what you hear, obviously. And it's just kind of amazing to me how one instrument and one step, which is a hearing test, can change someone's life. So that's just kind of inspired me my whole life for what I do now.
I love that story. It's, you hear a lot of different people's backgrounds and how they got into things, but I always love when it comes through the family. I think that's really neat. So with hearing tests, it's a good point to bring up. What age do you recommend that somebody does, get? I know obviously as a kid and through different times in your life, depending on the situation, but someone like me, for instance, I'm in my 30s. Do I need to worry about having hearing tests at my age?
I wouldn't say you'd have to worry about it, but it's always good to at least get a borderline test just to see where you are. Sometimes hearing loss can be genetic, and a lot of people don't know that they have it until they do decide to get a hearing test. And the good thing is a lot of hearing professionals offer complimentary hearing tests. So you don't have to worry about if your insurance pays for it or not. And it depends on the office, but they usually like you to come once a year after you get that initial test just to see where you are and if you've changed at all.
That makes complete sense. I went to an education one day and an audiologist spoke on this, and I was completely shocked because in our minds, I think too, and we work, all the time we work with seniors and caregivers, and those are people typically, let's just say 75 and up. And I've worked with many 100+ year olds who still don't do, let's say hearing aids or whatnot, but they're hard of hearing. I was surprised to hear that, even at somebody that's in their 30s or 40s, that it's suggested to get a hearing test just to have that baseline, but it makes complete sense.
Yep, even at my age, I still go and I say, hey, I just want to know. So no one should ever feel like they're too old, they're too young, because hearing loss does not discriminate. Even with CapTel, I've installed the CapTel phone for someone who was 18 before, who had been hearing impaired their whole life. So no one should feel like hearing loss is only based on their age, because what we like to say, or what I personally like to say, is that hearing loss is not about aging anymore.
I think too, with the way that we don't realize sometimes we're listening to music super loud, or we're watching a movie with all of our surround sound. I think it's definitely something that, again, like you said, it doesn't discriminate, and we need to be proactive rather than reactive later on in our lives.
Yeah.
Can you tell us exactly what who CapTel is, and what are the products that you do produce for for helping people with hearing loss?
So CapTel, as the name, actually stands for captioned telephone, because CapTel was the creator of the captioned telephone. We were the first company to really come out there and put out something like this. And what a CapTel is it is an amplified telephone, so it reaches volume louder than a regular home phone or cell phone. And it also has captions on the screen. So whatever someone is saying during a conversation to the user comes up on the screen, so they can read it and follow along, but they can also adjust that volume. So they have kind of both the hearing part and the visual aid. Because sometimes when people talk really fast and things like that, especially if someone has hearing loss, it's just a little harder for them. So we kind of made this to help the hearing impaired.
And who would be qualified for a CapTel phone?
So anyone who has hearing loss is qualified for a CapTel phone. And we are funded by the federal government. So when someone has hearing loss and we get a signature or some type of documentation from an audiologist, a hearing care provider, even someone's primary doctor that they have hearing loss, they're qualified to get the phone for no cost. And that's because since we're federally funded, we've technically been paying for this our whole lives through taxes. So when we say that there's no cost if someone has a hearing loss, there really is no cost for it.
That's amazing. So they have to have a documentation saying they have a hearing loss, and then they would reach out to you. And what does that process look like? You mentioned going to somebody's home to install it. So if somebody is in need or would like to have a CapTel phone, what's that process look like?
So when someone is in need or would like a CapTel phone, or even is just curious as to what more information or anything like that, we do have a website. They can go on the CapTel website, and we do have more information there. And there's actually a form online that they can print out and have their provider sign. We also have physical ones. So this is kind of what the physical one would look like. And we just ask for the customer information and the certifier. And a certifier, kind of in CapTel language, is again your doctor, your audiologist, your hearing care provider. If you go to an ear, nose, and throat, they can also fill it out for you if they find you have a hearing loss. But we do require both internet access, and we also require landline phone. But if you don't have a landline, we can also work with Bluetooth compatible cell phones. So if someone does have an iPhone or even an Android, as long as it can connect to Bluetooth, we can connect it to the CapTel phone. The only difference there is when it's a landline, they can pick it up like a traditional landline and then hang it up when they're done talking. And with the cell phone, both their cell phone and the CapTel ring at the same time, and they get to decide which one they answer. So if they think they're going to have a hard time, or if they do have a hard time on the phone, use their cell phone for emergencies only, they can pick up the CapTel and have a conversation. Right now, because of what's going on, because of COVID, we are shipping the phones. But if someone can't communicate without the CapTel, if they need us desperately, we can come out to their home and do what we can with the precautions. So we do wear a mask, and we do practice social distancing when we are going into the homes currently. But like I said, right now, we do first suggest shipping the phones, and then we offer over the phone assistance.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on the quality of life that you bring to people, because I know from working with seniors, having a hearing impairment can mean so many things, like we talked about whether it's physical things like, well, even before social distancing, like staying inside their homes because they're embarrassed or they're worried because they can't hear what people are saying to them. You bring this to their home and they're able to communicate, and that brings joy to their lives. They can see this right in front of them. They can see what's happening, and they're able to engage in conversations with their loved ones or their neighbors or whoever it might be. And I just think that's amazing to point out that you really do bring such a great quality of life to these people.
Thank you. I'd actually like to share a story just because you kind of brought it up. There was one time where I do personally install the phones as well with my team. So I went to a gentleman's home, and in this scenario, he preferred me email him to set up an appointment, which is perfectly fine. We like to do that if people are not comfortable on the phone. And I came to install the CapTel for him, and his wife had actually answered the phone for him for the past decade. So he had not felt comfortable or could even hear on a regular telephone before now. And what we do when we install the phones, we like to do a test phone call. So we like to make sure everything's working okay. We like to make sure the customer is comfortable. So when we do that, we, as in me, steps outside the home and I call the customer. And it was amazing because for someone who had not spoken for a decade over the phone, he kept me on the phone for 20 minutes.
Aww.
It was the happiest. I get so much joy out of what I do. And when I came in, his wife was crying, he was crying, I was crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you. And then before I left, he's like, so would it be okay if I called customer service just to have a conversation? I'm like, oh geez, what have I done?
And he called to brag about you.
That was the happiest time. I love everything. Every time I go into a home and change someone's life, whenever I talk to someone who knows someone who has a hard time over the phone, it just makes me feel so good.
I bet. I love it. I love hearing stories. And I almost asked you before you brought it up voluntarily to share one. But then I wasn't sure, this morning if you were prepared. So you definitely were. So I just think, I just want to say thank you to you guys. And then obviously the fact that it's federally funded and people are able to call you and move forward with something like this is such a big deal for them. So thank you and your team for everything you do.
Well, thank you. And we like to help with the process too. So if someone's not comfortable contacting their audiologist or whoever they need to certify and they need our help, we're there to help them through really every step. There's no step that we're not willing to assist you with.
That's amazing. So for everybody that's watching out there in Facebook world or any other platforms that we share this on, if you know somebody, whether it's your loved one, again, your neighbor, a friend, somebody who has hearing loss and they do not have a CapTel phone, please reach out and at least get information. Reach out to Samantha, the team at CapTel. We'll go ahead and put obviously the phone number in this post, the website, so that if you are tech savvy and you want to go ahead and fill out that form from the online website that Samantha mentioned to move forward, I just highly encourage you to go ahead and do that. Samantha, do you have any, I always like to ask this and put people on the spot, do you have any last words of wisdom?
My only words of wisdom would be, don't be afraid and don't be intimidated. Like I said, there are so many things out there that can help people with hearing loss. So don't feel that you're alone. Don't feel that, it's a lost cause. Don't feel like you can no longer connect with the people you love, because we're here to help, and also hearing professionals are there to help. We kind of like to work as a team, and hearing health is very important to both us and to almost everyone that we work with on our day-to-day. So don't be intimidated. We're very friendly. We have bad jokes sometimes, but that's it.
You should always have bad jokes. Oh wait, I have one for you.
Oh,
Is it okay if I share it? Because I just saw, we could kind of see Luna for a second, which is your cat. That's over there. So what do you call a pile of kittens?
Oh gosh, should I hide Luna for this question? a pile of kittens?
Meowton.
Oh,
Yes, 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 yes. I'm gonna high five myself.
that was a good one. I enjoyed that.
The other, so I love telling jokes, but I can never remember them. And so that one the other night, it was on TV. I was watching something on like Hulu or whatnot, and it was some celebrity that told it, and I'm like, I'm gonna remember that one and use it. And perfectly fitting because you have cats.
That was
So
good.
feel free to use that one.
Honestly, that's in our bad joke line. Our jokes are bad, but what we do is good. And also, I just want to mention, like I said a little bit previously, if you're not comfortable calling me, if you do have a hard time over the phone, but you're tech savvy or you're email savvy, texting and email is perfectly fine for us. We want you to know that we're there regardless. Carrier pigeon, email, text, even though the pigeon might take a little longer, that's okay.
Could we use the owl from Harry Potter?
Yes.
Perfect. I have
all foul.
I have one of those. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And you've been so gracious today to spend time with us and teach us about CapTel and such a phenomenal resource out there for hearing loss. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. And I hope you have a good day.
Thank you so much.